Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Happy Saturday. Saturday's a different place. School's a different place on a Saturday, isn't it? I thought to myself, Car Manor from Big Apple, Bramley. It's going to take me at least 40 minutes. It's going to take me 40 minutes, right? So, but I'm going to give myself 50. Jumps in the car there, and I got here in about 8. All right, so I'm thinking it's a Saturday, innit? So that's why I've got here with traffic. Sat in car for half an hour, turned engine off, obviously, so I was freezing because I didn't want to contribute to climate change, obviously. I have got an electric car. I'm not in that today. My wife's taking it, but I'm sat there for about 30 minutes thinking about what I want to say today. But it is a massive pleasure to be here. It's lovely on a Saturday. We can be a little bit different. We can get out of our comfort zone. I think on Saturdays we don't even really need to stick to time, do we, Simon? It's like a non-uniform day, isn't it? We come and enjoy ourselves. But it is a good morning, and if you can't already tell, I'm pumped full of adrenaline. I haven't slept all night, so my head's all over the place, and I've got to regather my thoughts. And the reason being is because if you didn't see and you hadn't heard already, I don't know where you've been, but the Leeds Rhinos got a win against St Helens last night. Yes! Yes! Now, put your hand up. Put your hand up if you watched the game. Put your hand up, right? Right up in there. Come on, let everybody know if you watched the game. Right, I sat right next to Kieran, so I knows a few. Right then, honesty test, integrity test. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. Right? I'll leave your hand up if you thought we were going to get paggered. Yeah. Ye of little faith. You put your hand down. Are you sure? Are you sure? We didn't. We went there and we got a win. For those who haven't watched it and don't know the Leeds Rhinos, we didn't have a great start to the season. It was pretty abject in week 1 against Warrington. We nearly won against, we had a good performance against Hull FC, but St Helens went over to Australia a couple of weeks ago and they got a win against Penrith Panthers and become the world champions. And no British team's ever done it over there in the style that they did it. It was unbelievable. Right, so last night, Leeds Rhinos going over to St Helens, a bit like Leeds United going to Real Madrid tomorrow, all right, and getting a win. So we're all like, we'll go over and support them, but I'm not so sure. Why it's exhilarating to me is a couple of days ago, Rowan Smith, head coach, he sent me a text. He said, look, I'm a bit behind cue ball this week preparing for Saints. I'm a bit behind. He said, could you help us out? He said, I just need 2 things from you if you can. I said, yeah, whatever you need, no problem at all, can't wait. And he said, could you organise a speaker for us? Somebody who might be a little bit different. And I'm thinking, St Helens, we need to get them pumped. I need to go dig up a gladiatorial Spartan from back 2,000 years ago who's going to come and give them a big talk about industriousness and fortitude and going and smashing St Helens. And he's going, no, calm down. I said, just anybody who's creative, who's a master of their craft, who has enjoyed their time, their journey in, it could be in sport, it could be in education, it could be in the creative arts, it could be a comedian, a musician, whatever it be. And I started thinking, and I thought, right, I've got a few mates, certainly a few who inspired me, and this is new to me, so you'll have to forgive me, I'll have to get my head around this a little bit. But there was one guy who sprung to mind, and he was very impressionable on me when I was a teenager, when I was about 18, 19 years old. And he created a song, right? It's called Jez Willis. And he created a song with his friend who's called Tim Garbutt in the 90s, right? And they ripped off like a Kate Bush song, and it created a track that was very well renowned. And if you're creative minded and you know those 2 guys are, you might not know them individually, you probably were collectively. Anybody guess who we're talking about? Don't be shy, get out of your comfort zone. Anybody? Utah Saints, right? Anybody remember Utah Saints? Utah Saints. They inspired me time and time again. And even now when I have those dark moments, those challenging times in my life, I put on a bit of Utah Saints, take myself back to being 17 or 18 years old, and I get up for it again. And I thought, right, I'm going to get Jez to come and speak to lads from a musical point of view and a little bit of his journey. So I invited him across, right, and they all eat on a Thursday at Manor Hatter in Headingley, and afterwards you get a speaker. Last 2 speakers, one was Johnny Bairstow, another guy was called Mike Bates, who's just rode the Atlantic grappler, stuck him from 12th of December to first week of February, all by himself, and he beat people who had 3 or 4 in it, but absolute madness. But Jez come along, and the second thing he asked me to do was present the debut shirt to James McDonnell. Right, and it's always a pleasure to be able to do that. Somebody starting out on their journey at the Leeds Rhinos. And it makes me reflect on my career and gives me this sense of gratitude for how fortunate that I've been to go there. right, and have the experiences and gain the knowledge that we've just been talking about that I can hopefully share with other people. So I wanted to present him with a shirt, but when I was just about to do it, I'd been out for a run. I'd done 8 miles. I did 8 miles this morning. I always like to get the oxygen in the brain. And it was impressed upon me, this memory that I had, another memory from my childhood that used to inspire me to be a little bit different, to get off the beaten path, all right, to go find something a bit abstract and be creative, right? And it was from a film. And it's probably sacrilege to bring this film up in an institution like this, right, in an education. So forgive me, but if you're my age, you'll remember it and you'll think, I get why you enjoyed that. And if you can, I want you to guess what this film is as I describe it to you. Right, it's about a bloke, I say a bloke, he was about 30 in the film, but he plays a teenager. Right, it's Matthew Broderick. He's in Chicago. Anyone? Giving you a clue. He's in Chicago. It was what? Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the antithesis of what this is about, a kid skiving off school. Skived off school, he gets up one morning, he decides, I'm going to be poorly, I don't want to go to school, I'm going to go and experience a different day, I'm going to get out of my habit, the routine, the ritual. I'm going to go and explore. Not only that, I'm going to smuggle my girlfriend out of school. And the headmaster knows exactly what's going on and he thinks I'm going to catch him. And he's being chased all day by this headmaster. And he manages to persuade his best mate, who's really miserable and dour, right, this guy called Cameron Fry. And they have a great time. They go to a baseball game, they go to restaurants, they go to museums, they end up dancing in the street in this carnival. And at the end of the film, he breaks the fourth wall and he looks at the camera. And he says, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And it was absolutely true. I think sometimes we get out of bed, we're not quite sure what a day is going to present. And we might even get back in bed at night and go, wow, whew, what a day. Like some of the things I've been fortunate to experience there, I'll have memories of for the rest of my life. And I would never have thought I was going to have that experience, but it was the most precious moment of my life. And I'm really privileged and fortunate through the vehicle of sport to be able to do that regular. Now, why I wanted them to hear that before I went and given this presentation and introduced Jez is because I was a little bit nervous. I wanted it to go well. They've got a big match, a big game to go play. And I wanted to try and inspire him in whatever way I could, but I didn't know how it was going to play out. And actually, looking back, it didn't play out how I expected it to, which made it even more beautiful, more creative in many ways. But I got up and I says to James McDonald, there's probably 3 things I want to impress upon you. Number 1, the influence that you're going to have on our fans. And remembering back to when I was 9 years old as a fan, I want to thank you retrospectively for what you're going to give. Because when I went to Edinley as a 9-year-old kid, and at that time, if you were clever enough and you knew where to go, you could sneak under the fence and that. And you might be, if you didn't, you'd have to have a fiver with you to pay in. It's a bit dearer now. And Gary Etherington's put a lot of electrified wire around bottom. So there's loads of kids like this. But I used to go in and I'd be educated, entertained and inspired by what I saw on the field. Now, for me, that was a creative dance floor and it was through physical expression. I was a sports person. I love sport. It was a great way to make friends and sometimes a good way to get back at your enemies as well, fairly, in the concept of the rules. But it inspired me as to who and what I wanted to be when I grew up, and that was a professional sports person. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that for 22 years, 421 games with 144 different players, a plethora of really nice accolades and successes along the way. And I wanted him to know that the fans would be inspired by what he said and what he did. I call it the vapor trail. And I won't go into it, so I've not got time. But if you go to Weddingley, it's on a flight path and aeroplanes come over all the time and they leave a vapor trail sometimes. And that trail can stay there for a few minutes. And the people on the plane don't know it's there. And the pilots certainly don't either, can't see it. But the people looking up can be reminded for a while that a plane's just gone over. And it's exactly the same for sports people. When people watch us on that theatre, everything that we say and we do is scrutinised. And people are inspired by it or discouraged sometimes. So it's important that everything we say and we do, we're mindful of it and that it's always positive. We're always doing the right thing. It's in the spirit of the rhino, which I'm going to get onto in a second. The second thing I wanted him to know is that it's an opportunity. And I'm bleeding into the title of my talk here as well, which is about community, opportunity, the ability to thrive and become. All right. And the opportunity is to go out there and realise his potential, like I was fortunate to do. And over those 22 years, I grew every year, learnt new lessons, and I'm still learning lessons now. But ultimately, I fulfilled a boyhood dream. Not a lot of people know what their dreams are, never mind be able to stand here at 40-year-old and say I fulfilled it. And it's not lost to me how privileged I am to be able to do that. And I hope that that shirt was an opportunity for him to go on a journey, to realise some of his potential, to achieve some of his goals, and most importantly, to create memories and galvanise relationships that will last forever. And then the last one was about becoming, or become. Now, think of the word become when it's spelled B-E-C-O-M-E. So the word become is to manifest the true potential of yourself. Be the best version of yourself based on everything that you learnt yesterday and every single day since the day you were born. Now the word become starts with a B-E and finishes with M-E. All right? So to become you, you've got to be me. Right? If you can't be the full version of yourself, if you're not going to be you, so that means you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and go against convention sometimes if you want to be the best version of yourself. And it was really interesting that Jez from the Utah Saints spoke after I gave him this shirt. And he got up, and I think the most inspiring thing that he said was that during his time following U2 and some of the big bands in the 90s and 2000s, and some of his artistic work came about by doing something a little bit different that was unconventional, that he was a bit shy and needed to be brave to go and fulfill and do. And when he'd done it, whilst he didn't think it'd work out, it really manifested itself into a real result. And he showed his full creative potential. So for me, as an ex-professional rugby league player, fulfilled his boy dream, who can go back to Bramley this afternoon, where my wife and my 4 kids were the most important people in the world, right, reside and will be unconditionally. So I've achieved everything that I wanted to do and see and experience. That can't be eclipsed, it can't be beat for the rest of my life, I don't believe. And everything that I love and hold dear is already at home. So why do I get out of bed every morning? The only reason is to try my very best with this great debt of gratitude for what was given to me, to pay that forward to the next generation of players and people. So that in his pocket of Leeds, and the people more importantly within Leeds who gave me that opportunity on the vehicle of sport, and there's lots of other people sat in this room doing exactly the same thing in different sectors in education, in art and creativity, and I'm looking around and I know so many faces who still inspire me through their leadership and what they do. I just want to give back in my own little way through the resource that we've got at Edinburgh and try to impress upon people some of the sort of spiritual reasons why I think our team was really successful. Now, really quickly, and I know I haven't got time, I'm going to fly through this, Simon, so trust me, you'll have to trust me. For those who don't know anything about rugby league and don't care about it, there's a short video, all right? A short video that will express why we like to change lives through the power of sport. And in my new role of Head of Culture, Diversity and Inclusion, I very much hope to be able to do that. Because now we're not just one men's team, we're a women's team, we're an academy team, we're a wheelchair team, we're a learning disability rugby team, we're a physical disability rugby team, and we're also a netball team. We've even transcended the sport of rugby league, which is amazing. We're a brand. And that brand has enabled me to achieve some of my potential. It's a real mosaic, his life, and I'm really honoured and proud to have been able to do a lot of what I've done. But I couldn't have done it had it not been for the sport and the people within that sport that give me that chance. Wasn't easy. Sometimes it was horrendous. It was disgusting, actually, at times. There was a period of 6 weeks last year that was the hardest 6 weeks of my life, and simultaneously the most exhilarating as well and the most educational. It's not always easy, but it's an opportunity, and that's all anybody ever needs, isn't it? That's all anybody should at least deserve, anyway. So this is a short video of me. I think I'm 1309, 1,309th player to have represented this great club, and I don't think there'll be many players within that time that's played with as many players as I have over the last 20 years as well. It's been wonderful, and you know, with all the successes and some of the adversity as well, I think it's the people that you play with that you really treasure. That's where the real gratification, and being able to do it in front of my hometown fans in my home city of Leeds is been a dream come true, and it's been a real privilege. And you know, 20 years in, nearly done, nearly finished, coming to the end of my career, it's been a wonderful experience.
Jamie Jones once more through Blake Green, brilliant try from Jamie Jones-Buchanan. Oh, he's tossed it inside, and it is Jamie Jones-Buchanan. Burrow short ball to Jamie Jones. Jamie Jones-Buchanan for Leeds. It's one of the most popular beards in rugby league, that. Joel Moon, back it comes to Hall, inside to Jamie
been through as a player the golden era, the golden generation, and I've seen all sides of it. You know, the ups and the downs, and you've got to be there for all of it. As a Leeds supporter, I'll never leave them or forsake them. And when I do finish, I'll go back out and stand in that south stand. Yeah, we used to give it to St Helens back in my day as well. Get out, me saints. They always say that you never remember who finishes second. Well, I can remember who finished second in 2007, 8 and 9. Anyhow, the Saints. I ain't going to go into these, each one of these, and I've got probably not my favourite one, but one that probably means most because it was the first one, 2004, I've got on today. I could stand here and talk for 20 minutes about each journey. And the actual rings themselves are irrelevant now. They're incidental, they were part of a year, and each year brought about its own learnings, its own lessons. But to just impress upon you the magnitude of the experience we had in my cohort, my generation. Very successful group of players, and it's not here to boast by any means. It's just to say that we had a special group at a really impressionable period of our lives. But we went on this journey where we had this almost contrast between success and adversity. So it's a bit like that Rudyard Kipling. Triumph and disaster, treat those two impostors just the same. There is no real difference between winning and losing, success and failure. There's just an educational experience. And if we can take either, get up the next day and try to be the best version of ourselves, then we'll keep growing and success will find itself. But adversity is absolutely a part of it. And we knew that, but the only way to come across it is to thrive in it and to support one another. And we had this captain, this guy, this cultural architect called Kevin Sinfield, right? And he was the greatest human being I've come across. Apart from my wife and 4 kids, that's essentially anybody who's not called Jones-Buchanan, end of the name, right? He's the most important person in my life. And because he's been the preserver and the creator of the environment that allowed us to succeed. And there's a couple of moments, and I haven't got a lot of time today, so I'm just going to fire through some really important moments that I think really underpin his character as a leader, what he installed in that culture, in that environment, for us all, within our diversity, to thrive and be exponentially as good as we could be, so that not only could we grow ourselves, but give back to our teammates as well. And it was always about love. He talked about love there and care. That agape, the Greek agape, the one where you'll dive on a grenade for a comrade to save somebody's life. That selfless, sacrificial love, right, where you use your abilities not for yourself but for somebody else. And as well as all these medals here that I'd won, or Super League rings, there was one year when, in 2015, we won the treble, the domestic treble, and we were the first Leeds team in the club's history to do that. All right, and that's basically win the grand final, to win top of the league, finish top of the league, and to win the Challenge Cup. Unfortunately, before being able to get our hands on any of the trophies, I tore my quad in a semi-final against St Helens at the Halliwell Jones Stadium in Warrington. And it was a horrendous night because Kevin Sinfield was retiring that year, so it meant that, well, even though he was my best mate, it was the last game I played with him properly. It was the first time I got stretchered off in my career. And to make it even worse, I'm 34 years old, live on BBC Two, all right, Challenge Cup, Friday night, which is fish and chip night in Bromley. I was watching it, and to make it worse, I'm getting stretchered off, and I took the gas and air off, and my grandma's only run out of crowd. She's got it stretched, and she's walking off with me like this. I'm like, are you mad? Took some explaining to my mates, right? But even worse than that, it meant that I wasn't going to play in any finals. And Kev rang me and he went, Jonesy, if we win at Wembley, I want you to come and get the trophy with me. And I went, mate, I love your sentiment. It's typically you. I love you to bits and I appreciate it. But you're mad. I'm not going to go up there in front of 80,000 people live on BBC. I look like John Terry with my suit on. Are you mad? Anyway, I forgot all about it. And sure enough, they went and won it in record fashion. It was an unbelievable game. And I just stood, best fans box in the world. I'm stood there, eyes to widest aperture, collecting all the light there. Great experience. And he goes, come on, Jonesy, we're going up. And I'm like, no, you're mad, go and take the boys. And then Rob Barone and Danny Maguire and JP and the rest of them, come on, you're with us. And several do's, and there and then, you know, he said, listen, even though you can't play with us now, and it was the first final in 19 that I'd missed, it doesn't mean you're any less a part of this group right now. So I went up, and sure enough, I lifted the trophy off, and this was the most important picture of my career. And I'd not even played. People often ask me now, do I miss playing? And I do in a way, But no, I don't miss getting smashed to bits every week. You mad, right? I'm into the next chapter, and neither of us want to be defined by what we did as players either. And it's interesting that the game, the field, was a method, a vehicle through which we just came together and built relationships. We still got them relationships, just do it on a different field now. So I don't miss them because I'm still with them, still doing it. You know, them memories, those relationships will last forever, and we're still doing it together. And as you know, Kevin, and this is getting a bit abstract, let me explain fish in a minute. Simon, stop panicking, I won't be long, all right. This group here, this core, the top right-hand corner, is the group that I came through. And as you'll see, there's Rob Burrows stood between myself and Jamie Peacock there. And you know, Rob Burrows is only this big. He's not grown since he was about 11 years old. You know what I mean, like not be out of Harry Potter. I used to give him loads of stick, bless him. And he was world class. Everybody thought that to be a rugby player, to be big and burly and really strong. Well, he rewrote the rules, a complete paradigm shift. When Rob Burrows went and he was world class, it was because he was tiny. But we did have some big guys. And the reason why I've got the fish in there, and when I speak at schools or businesses, I always use this bit of a metaphor about when I was 14 and I used to keep piranhas. And whilst I was keeping piranhas, I understood exactly what environment they needed to grow and thrive, which was to replicate the Amazon River, vegetative, acidic, a bit murky, not the best in your bedroom, stinks, to be fair. But I started to see other fish as well, cichlids that live in a rocky alkaline pool, very chalky. And then you've got your porcupine puffer, which was the one I always wanted, but I couldn't afford it, because you needed a reverse osmosis unit to break all the chemicals down that you get out of the tap. You needed exactly the right pH, exactly the right temperature, and exactly the right concentration of salt. And if any of them was a tiny bit off, then the fish would start to suffer and eventually die. When you've got all this equipment, it's really expensive. The fish is expensive as well. You don't want it to die, especially when you're 14-year-old. But it's a cool fish to have because its spikes will release a neurotoxin that will render a fully grown adult conscious but paralysed. You can't move. If you've got one of them as a 14-year-old, that's a cool pet to have. Just feed my fish, will you? Feed my fish. Now, the reason that I had all these was because they started to remind me of my teammates. Now, the piranha was Jamie Peacock, just the most stubborn human being you've ever seen in your life. Just disagreed with everything that everybody says. That's why he's on BBC, just to disagree with everything that pundits say. And he said, Jamie, let's agree to disagree. And he won't even agree to do that, just Mr. Stubborn. I could talk all day about him, but he's an hard-nosed warrior, and you want him at the front of any fight when you're playing rugby league. The cichlids were like Danny McGrath, Rob Burrows, really darty. They were beautiful to watch, entertainers. I was a goldfish. Really quick, put your hands up if you've had a goldfish. And if there's anybody who's not, come on, play with me today. Of course we have, because we've all done hook a duck down at fairground. You've all won a goldfish. You've gone home, you've not got a goldfish bowl, and you've banged it like me in a pan full of gravy, and it'll survive there for at least 2 days till you go pick one up, because they're hard as nails. That's why everybody's had a goldfish. But the porcupine puffer fish is like Kevin Sinfield, the most fussy human being you've ever met. All right, Mr. OCD, stirs his tea 36 times exactly. All right, now me and him are complete opposites. He's really studious, methodical, and he thinks about what he says. Jimmy Jones-Buchanan, a bit different, right? And that's why we get on so well with binary. We complement each other. He's a little bit boring at times, but he's legalistically perfect, and that means everything that we do and plan to do gets executed really well on a Friday night, and he's a great leader. Listen, really quickly, BBC Sports Personality Year, 2015. Right, he loses to Andy Murray. Now, only Kevin Sinfield can lose to Andy Murray in a personality contest. But what he can do is he can run 7 marathons in 7 days. And then he can run 100 mile from Leicester to Leeds. And then he can run 7 ultras day after day, bang after bang, right? And he raised 2.7 million, 2.5 million, a little bit over 2 million. Not only that, he impresses the government enough to pledge another 60 million to MND. And not only that, right, when you look at the MND website, at the end it says, there is no cure, full stop. And it's almost like, well, that's it, there is no cure, so we're not going to bother looking for one. No, he's flicked the full stop and said, there is no cure yet, but with enough money and awareness, we're going to find one. And if you can bet your bottom dollar on anybody, it'd be Kevin Sinfield. Unbelievable character, right? And again, that love just shines through ever deeper than it did on the field. People ask, do you miss playing? Not really. because I'm still with this group of people. They're still impressing upon those around us, our community, who watch the Rhinos and the brand, something exceptionally special. And if we're not going to do this type of thing as human beings, try to love each other and be a part of a community, an inclusive one where everybody's allowed to come into the tank and thrive, then what on earth are we doing? And ultimately, I'll always say, right, at the end of the day, when he goes and does his runs, he can get through them because he's having fun. He's with his mates. He's doing it because he enjoys it. Now, and last slide, my obviously biggest pleasure and the reason why I get up every day is because in a club as diverse as the Leeds Rhinos, I've got a few objectives. Number one is to showcase what we do really well already. But number two, most importantly, is that people of all ages and abilities or disabilities have got an opportunity to come and realise their potential and to thrive. And give them an opportunity. That's all you can do for anybody. It's not always easy, but if you've got an opportunity, you've got a chance. So I hope today you manage to get out of your comfort zone, do something a little bit different. It's a Saturday, chill out. You don't have to be like a school teacher. You don't always have to stick to time. If you're a little bit late, it won't kill you. Be creative, enjoy the day. I'd love to be here all day, actually. I would floating around. It's my 10-year-old's birthday today, so he's got an appointment with his dad at Clip and Climb a little bit later on. So that should be a little bit fun. But listen, have a great day. It's a pleasure to speak to you. And keep doing what you're doing for Leeds. Really appreciate it. Thanks.